Hello. First tonight, how the inquest into the death of a student from Suffolk has been delayed because the coroner wants to investigate how 4 other people with eating disorders died.
Averil Hart had already been diagnosed with anorexia before she started university at the UEA in Norwich. Within weeks, things became much worse. She was taken to Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, where she died. That was 7 years ago. A report later found her death could have been prevented. It said she'd been failed by every NHS organisation that should have cared for her. We now know the coroner wants to look at other similar deaths. In a moment, we'll speak to Averil's father. After this, from our health correspondent, Nikki Fox.
I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love.
It's inconceivable, really.
Well, I'm sorry we had a problem with that report. I think that we can go back to it now. Let's see if we can play that for you now.
I could offer you a warm embrace.
A talented singer, it took 10 weeks for Averil Hart's health to deteriorate so much she lost a third of her body weight. But it took 5 years for the Health Ombudsman to find her death was an avoidable tragedy caused by clear failures of care.
It's inconceivable, really, that someone who's healthy and can go to a freshers' do and enjoy all the things in week 1 can be dead 10 weeks later and literally starve to death.
At the University of East Anglia, she was assigned an inexperienced clinician by the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Mental Health Trust. Her GP practice failed to pick up her weight loss. Averil's father visited her and was shocked by her health. He alerted Addenbrooke's, but the consultant there refused to take his call. On December the 7th, Averil failed to attend an appointment. She was found unconscious. She was admitted to the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, where her care fell far short and constituted a service failure. She was then transferred to Addenbrooke's, where it took 5 hours to see her. She suffered severe brain damage. Now the coroner in Cambridge has written to Averil's family, saying the tragic death of Averil is linked to 4 other eating disorder deaths that we are investigating. One death happened in 2017, 3 others in 2018. Last week, a national report highlighted the gap in support for those over 18.
In general, we find adults perhaps waiting 3 or 4 times longer than children and young people, which when it comes to eating disorders is critical.
Progress is being made on helping teenagers with eating disorders. Campaigners say more now needs to be done for adults like Averil.
To make you feel my love.
Nikki Fox, BBC Look East.
Well, late this afternoon, I spoke to Averil's father, Nick. Since her death, he's campaigned for better services for people with anorexia and for an inquest into Averil's death. He gave me his reaction to yet another delay.
Well, we had to fight hard for the inquest in the first instance. And as you know, it took over 3 years to get a report from the Ombudsman, 10 draft reports and an awful lot of work from Averil's family to get to that stage. But we did believe that once the Ombudsman's report was in the public domain, that changes would be made and that care would improve. But the CCG report, which said the units are understaffed and lacking resources, clearly shows that there are still problems. And those problems, as you can see, are resulting in unnecessary deaths, and that's tragic.
Does it make you angry that stuff isn't getting done?
Well, Stuart, after Averil died, we raised 41 questions of Cambridge and Peterborough Trust, who were looking after Averil. They've refused and still refuse to answer 28 of those questions, and they are about the basic care that Averil received. So I'm both angry and sad that Cambridge and Peterborough are not making the changes that are needed, and that others are suffering as a result. The Trust has spent, we estimate, over £100,000 in legal expenses And when you compare that with what was spent on Averil's care in the community, probably less than £1,000, it seems demonic that the trust would spend 100 times that amount to protect their reputation and still allow people to die.
There will be some families watching this evening who are worried about one of their family members, perhaps a daughter. What would you say to them?
You know, I can't help but reflect on the mistakes I made as a parent, and Averil went to university. We thought she was in good hands, in good care as a disabled student, but the reality is that as a parent, the lesson we learned was never let go, never think that everything's okay until you are 100% sure. My advice to all families is stay in touch, stay vigilant, and make sure that your son or daughter is getting the care that they need.
But you must know that there was nothing more you could do.
As a parent, no, I don't accept that. I should have done more. The reality is that the basic care that Averil needed was not there, and if only I could wind the clocks back, I would have been at Averil's side every day rather than just on the phone.
Averil was a very bright girl. Do you think that she might have said to you, "Dad, you've done enough, now get on with your life"?
She was a fighter. She had a black belt in karate. She had a huge sign on her dressing table which said courage. You know, I don't think there is ever enough when services are failing as they are at the moment, Stuart. You know, until we have reasonable level of competence and resources for eating disorders, I don't think one can give up this fight, if you like. I'm in touch with a lot of other families, and I think we all feel the same.
Mr. Hart, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart.
And tonight the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough NHS Foundation Trust has confirmed the coroner is looking into 5 deaths, which includes a diagnosis of eating disorder. They also said we've made considerable improvements to our eating disorder services, including enhancements to wards, increased staffing levels and more training and development of staff. The death of any one of our patients is a tragedy for the families involved and for our staff who cared for them.